Thank you, everyone. So up first, we have Brooklyn Collaborative Studies. So I just want to back up to say a little bit that this spring has really been quite different from other springs in terms of how this program rolls out. Normally we are in the classrooms, students are sitting at their desk pods together, collaborating, exchanging ideas, drawing and sketching together. And this spring, all of that became impossible. And we sort of all quickly had to figure out how can we keep this design challenge going and give students the tools they need. So they have come up with very thoughtful, innovative designs despite all of these constraints with remote learning. We're so impressed. And they've been using digital drawing tools. They've been doing hand drawings and taking pictures of them and uploading. They've been working with teammates to talk through ideas and develop them. So we just wanted all of our audience members to know what the process has been like. So kind of think about that, just how challenging it must have been for the students to do this work online and digitally. So first, with Brooklyn Collaborative Studies, I'm not sure if Brittany Loomis or William Liu, our two partner teachers, which one of you would like to introduce your school and students?
I think we decided I'll go first. Hi, my name is William Liu. I'm a science teacher at Brooklyn Collaborative Studies. I work with the other teacher, Brittany Loomis, but not specifically in the class that we use the Blue School Design Challenge in. We actually did it in separate classes. And this year I use the curriculum in the ecology class that I teach. We were studying earlier in the year the biotic factors of ecosystems, and then the second semester was supposed to be moving towards abiotic and ending with the Gowanus Blue Schools project. And we tried to transfer that as best we could remotely. And I'm here to introduce Rosalind. She's one of the students in our ecology class. And let me see now, you want me to share my screen and show the Padlet page with her work? Is that correct? Okay, so Rosalind, I assume I'm going to start with the top icon here and then scroll down. You can say next and I'll move on to the next one as you talk about them. So first I'll bring up your analyzation of the rooftop.
Can I start?
Sure.
Okay. So first I had to analyze my school shed. So I had to put where the roofs were, just to have like a basic school shed and like how it looks right now. So as you can see here, gray is roof, courtyard, parking lot, basketball court. The green circles are trees, and the green triangles are like, not triangles, my bad, rectangles were garden, lawn, planters, and screen space. That's what we have right now. Next. So to see what I wanted to add to the school shed, I decided to make a survey and email it to students and staffs and teachers around my school to collect data of either their favorite places around the school outside within the school area, their least favorite where they saw flooding, what would they like to see more of in our school as of the outside in the school, if that makes sense. And with that data, I was able to see what I can add or how I can kind of make it into a school shed, if that makes sense. Okay, next. Here's a more clear view of what I was talking about. I here added again, roofing, basketball court. I put in more details of what was in our school, and I added students, staffs, and teachers' favorite spot in the school outside. what was their concern, what would they like to see more, what would they like to, yeah. And I had like small little text in the back of the school shed explaining where there would be flooding, where I would like to put or like to put more greenery around. Yeah, next. Okay. So this is my design program. I decided to cut the map into sections where it would be easier for me to put where I want to put more greenery. So first slide is I have the roof. The light is gray of rectangles you see is permeable pavement, which is the flooring on the left side of the roof. And then to the right side of the roof, I decided to put green roof, like grass, to have like a small little learning area for like when students or like teachers want to go upstairs and want to teach a lesson outside. That'll be one side of the roof, and then the other side of the roof I decided to make it like a hangout area, which is what the data of what I collected wanted the most. They wanted a place to hang out like on the roof. So I decided to put stone tables, stone benches, and raised planters around the edge of the roof. And I decided to put some trees, more benches, so it wouldn't flood in the roof. Next slide. Here I have the parking lot. I did a basic parking lot design. I put raised planters to where the cars would be, and then parking lot tape, some trees, more permeable pavement, so that there wouldn't be more flooding. Next slide. Here we have the small yard. I decided to put a greenhouse on that big bright green area because that's where there was mainly because previously there was a lot of plants there, but since it's like in a yard, kids are going to be playing and those plants would probably get destroyed. So I decided to put a greenhouse so that it would be in one place and not just like everywhere. On the side of the cement, I decided to put trees and some more raised planters. I put more permeable pavement, so again, wouldn't be more flooding. More trees, more stone tables, for more access to hangout areas. There's a good amount of space for playing, for like kids to play, and there's a playground when I put more trees. Next slide. In the big yard, there's a basketball court. So there, I wasn't sure how to do it, but I managed to. I decided to put more trees. Where there wasn't a basketball court, I decided to put permeable pavement and more benches, more raised planters, and that's it. Next slide. And then these are the outside of the school, so the sidewalks. So from the data I collected, a lot of people were complaining how there was a lot of flooding, and there was a need of more greenery on the outside because it kind of looked dead with no greenery or nothing. So I put curbside bioswales, so the water, when it rains and there's flood, it would make its way to the bioswale. So I put a lot. I put trees. I put trash cans because kids, they put their trash where it doesn't belong, which is the trees, and there isn't enough trash cans. So they would just dump it on the curbside bioswales, or the raised planters, they'll just dump it everywhere they see it, basically. So I decided to put more trash cans so it can keep the outside cleaner and more presentable. There's more concrete and more trees. That's what I have as my proposal. Questions?
Super. That was great. I am going to call on a couple of jurors to people in the jury to speak on this. I think let's start with Brad Lander. Brad, can you, and maybe I'll announce both of them. Maybe Brad and Nick, please. If Brad and Nick could take this one.
Yeah, well, Rose, this is fantastic. Really an amazing piece of work, and that you did this all, through, without even being able to like see anyone in person is like extra amazing. I guess what I like best about it is just how responsive it is. I mean, the fact that you really went out there and did the surveys and found out what people wanted, kind of in large and small, like of course people want, a place to hang out. That sounds great, but also to think about the little things as well, the trash cans and the bioswales. Like, this is just a really, it's beautiful too, but also just a thoughtful and diligent job of taking what people said and designing it in a way that you can really see where your input matters. So I think if you went back to all the students that you got feedback from, they would see their ideas reflected clearly in your work, and that really is like the #1 goal of a design project like this. So congrats. It's really
Yeah, I wanted to include data from other people because I didn't want to seem selfish and just put in my ideas without getting other people's reaction to it. So I wanted, other ideas to see what people wanted to see, what they wanted to change around the school.
You did a great job of that, and then laid it out really beautifully too.
Thank you.
I think I definitely have to second that. The process here was really great, and it's so important to make sure you're taking into account the feedback that you receive, especially from the users that are ultimately going to inhabit your space. I think the other things that I'd like to point out, one is that I'm very impressed with the presentation. The fact that you have a legend on every slide is really great. I can't tell you how many professional presentations I've seen that don't have a legend that explains what's going on in their plans. So just even being able to clearly explain and go through this presentation is really key. And I think you have a sort of a natural sense, a natural good design sense for how to lay a lot of these things out. I think this, particularly the streetscape, which is obviously from a DOT perspective, what I really like, it's very realistic. It's actually something that could be achieved even tomorrow. So having that practicality is also, I think, really positive and a really successful way to approach it. So great job. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I guess I will leave with one question is, there's a lot of permeable pavement here, but it seems like there were some locations where you didn't pursue permeable pavement, like the sidewalk or like that cement area in the yard. Was there a reason for that?
The reason was I wasn't sure because kids normally run around where the cement part is, so I didn't want, them to be tripping on permeable pavement because people trip on them. I'm guilty of tripping on it a lot, so.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I definitely encourage you to take a look at some of the newer permeable products that are coming out. There's porous asphalt, there's pervious concrete, there's stuff that goes beyond just the sort of permeable pavers that you see in a lot of places. So some cool, really, really cool ideas though. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Super. All right. So can we get the next student up?
Sure, I can introduce the next student if that works. This is Brittany.
Yes.
Cool. All right, nice job, Rosalind. Up next, well, first I'll introduce myself. I'm Brittany, also from Brooklyn Collaborative. Like William shared, we do teach a class together, but didn't do this project in that class. I actually did it in an elective that I teach for architectural drafting and design. Unfortunately, because it was an elective, the class technically ended in like early May. So that class wasn't able to see this project through the end. But Sanaya worked hard on it even past that deadline. So what she has to share, she's actually in both William and I's class for this project. So I think the majority of what she's going to share was what she worked on in my class, which is the concept board for the design that she came up with. So Sanaya Williams is going to present it for you, and we are ready for you whenever you are.
Okay, so in Brittany's class, I did a slideshow about how I want my green space to be, and I did a garden, and I chose to do a garden because I feel like it's more safer than a roof because kids can be reckless sometimes. So I decided to do a garden instead and have like trees, like some trees along the garden for like clean air and stuff. So I did a slideshow, and the word I chose to describe how I want like the garden to be is idyllic, and the garden will allow students and adults to relax, brunch, and complete work. This space was made to motivate people and to let them connect with their inner selves. Fresh air in a comfortable place will empower deeper thinking and relaxation. So yeah, and the next slide. So when I type in the word idyllic, this is what came up in the images. And so I chose these pictures to like represent the word and how it's peaceful, and you see that it's calm and just like, you know, a utopia. And the next slide. So these are the colors how I want the people, the classmates, and the teachers and staffs to feel when they're in the garden. So I was thinking of like a indoor garden with like the roof off for like sunshine and stuff. So that's how like I pictured it. And the walls of the inside garden will be these colors, and these colors have different meanings to represent motivation and to feel calm. And the next slide. These are the textures that will be like a part of the space. So that's gonna be wood. And I was thinking that the wood can be like the walls and paint them. And the leaves because of the plants, a beanbag for people to sit and feel comfortable, and pebbles. The next slide. And basically this is how I want people to feel: empowered, motivated, and calm. So they're at a calm state and they don't feel no negative thoughts or anything like that. So yeah. The next slide. And the activities is basically you can just plant, you can eat, like I said, complete homework, or you can have like the teachers can have a class over there, and it's gonna be like enough space for everybody to not feel like cluttered at the same time. And yeah, and you could also hang out with friends after school or during lunch on your free time. And basically that's it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Sanaya, I love it. I love the concept of this. I made the concept video, which I think you may have seen. So I'd love to see when students come up with concepts. I think this is great. I think that if we can have Meredith start, and then Jessica to also be one of the jury panelists to talk about this.
Yeah,
Great. Sanaya, I really, really like this. It really, it speaks to me quite a lot. I'm really curious as to what, you talked about colors, textures, emotions. It's very sensory. Wondering what inspires that process for you. Why you think about things and you're looking at it through all these different senses. Do you have a particular inspiration for your design process?
No. I just honestly, I just like went along with everything. Like I had an idea that just came to me and I just like decided to just like, just go along with it and see where it takes me. So this is what I came up with.
I'd very much like to go and visit Utopia.
And this area of the garden will be in the school's parking lot because it's concrete, and I just feel like that space needs to be a green space to collect the rainwaters. And yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sanaya.
And Jessica,
Yeah.
could you comment?
Yeah, I love your analysis of sort of this kind of almost like a wellness garden space. You have like a very sort of sophisticated emotional analysis of what you want to happen here. And like introducing your top color and texture palettes is something that like, I wish I learned way earlier even, and still struggle figuring out like how, I want things to feel and look. So that's like super duper impressive. I'd be curious even to see more of like of your idyllic, like the Google search of the like ideal scene is like something we all really like, I think responded to, and those images were super beautiful. And I would want to see even more of like your favorite stuff worked into it.
Thank you.
Super. Thank you so much, Sanaya. Now, who will be introducing the students? Is it?
Yeah, we've
Christine?
got, next up is MS447. So Cheryl Grau and Michael Ensminger are the teachers for this school. So Cheryl and Michael, you're up.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cheryl, and I'm one of the teachers. I'm a co-teacher with Michael, and we do this program as a part of our 8th grade service learning unit. So our students break up into 3 different groups, and this is a service learning group aimed at providing, design ideas, and in person, we also do stewardship of street trees. We learn about street gardening. We usually have a build project. We've built planters over the years. We have a goal someday to build tree guards and things like that. And we do service around the neighborhood, around greening the neighborhood. Of course, with COVID this year, all of our work was online. And Michael will talk a little bit about that. I just want to say our project this year focused on the entrance to our school, which is the whole street where the students come off the subway has been under construction. And I can't imagine the experience of a student stepping off the subway and making their way into the entrance of the school. It's very industrial, very loud, lots of machinery, cement trucks, not very pleasant at all. So they were revisiting the entrance to the school as well as the courtyard, which our students often describe as prison yard. And it really does look quite like a prison yard for any of you who've been into our courtyard. So Michael's going to say a little bit about our work together, but I just want to give you an overall view.
Okay, I'll try to say something about our work together because my Zoom is very glitchy for me. But also just to reiterate what Charles said in a different way is that we also stressed that green space is about social justice also, and our school is really lacking green space, or even really any kind of space to learn about greens. Like we have a concrete schoolyard, and we try and plant and to have some learning space, but it's always challenging. So Christine said a lot of what I was going to say about the transitioning to remote learning, but I just wanted to really give a shout out to all of the students. I know Brittany and William's students also really had a huge transition to remote learning, and our students also, and that they were so flexible, and it was exciting to see them be able to make that transition. We discovered some really amazing things along the way though, and one of them is Padlet, which we're using here with GCS, and we discovered it in our online learning, and we were looking for a way to present student work, and it became this really great tool for students to pull design ideas into Padlet, and then they pulled bubble diagrams into Padlet, they wrote on Padlet, and they just really continued to build on their work in Padlet, and it became like a gallery of their work, and it also became a space that other students, as a class, we could go in and do gallery walks and look at other students' work. So we did that a couple of times, so then they could learn from each other and get inspiration not only from like Google searching, like we heard about, but also from what other students are doing. So, and then the last thing that I wanted to say is we did lose some things along the way with transitioning to remote learning, but I think we also gained digital tools that we hadn't used before. We gained Google Drawing, we gained, there's UC projects on Tinkercad, which we hadn't used before. So that was really sort of an exciting thing to discover also. I think our first presenter is Zaria McQueen. And I think our students are going to pull up their own Padlets and present them. I think that's where we left it at. So Zaria is going to present her Padlet and talk through it.
Okay, hello, my name is Zaria. I will be showing you my site plan for our MS447 courtyard. So this is my final design. Our school, like Mr. Ensminger said before, it doesn't really have a lot of green space. So I wanted to make sure I added as much green as possible while still leaving a little bit of space for other things like seating.
Sorry, I'm gonna pause you for 1 second. We can't see what you're presenting.
Oh, my apologies. I forgot to share.
And maybe you could talk a little bit louder also.
Oh, sure. So this is my final site plan. This is a bird's eye view. Like I said before, I really wanted to add a lot of green space to the garden, well, to the courtyard, because before it was very dark and gloomy, and also it would be a way to at least limit the amount of sewage overflow by collecting all of that water. I also wanted to add some more planter boxes, and I decided to rearrange them from the way they were before, so that one, they are better protected from all of the students running around in the yard, but also it would be easier to organize. So not only did I want to add more green elements to the space, but I wanted to add more division and organization to all of that. Let's see, the next one. I also decided to add some more seating space for the students, because currently there isn't really much seating space in the yard. So it would allow for students to come outside, do their work if they want to, and instead of having them all crowded into the cafeteria. So, and also the trees would provide shade, but also provide another way for stormwater to, well, sorry, but it also provide a way to limit the sewage overflow into the Gowanus Canal. I also want to add swings as another fun element to the whole yard. It would also brighten up the space, but also add more rather than just seating and turf. And yes, that's about it for my Padlet. not seem to be working. But yeah, that pretty much concludes my design. Overall, I really just wanted to I really wanted to give every space a purpose, because currently the schoolyard isn't that large, and if you look at it from one point of view, it doesn't seem like you can do much with it. So I really wanted to have each space usable and possibly give it more use. For example, the turf can be used, let's say courtyard is empty some days, some students can relax on the turf. It would also brighten up the space more. You could also play games like soccer and all of that. And it really livens up the space, once again, prevents more sewage overflow. Another thing I wanted to add was there would be permeable pavement throughout the yard, for example, near the planter boxes and under the turf as well, and also beneath the swings to once again reduce sewage overflow to help at least slow the process of the Gowanus Canal being polluted. And yeah,
Hey, sorry,
that
do you
concludes
mind going
everything.
back to your Padlet and just showing your bubble diagram? I think people would be interested in seeing the process.
Oh, that's what was wrong. Okay,
That could be.
right. So my apologies that I got a little lost there. So this is my bubble diagram. It was one of the first sketches that I had for the idea. And as you can see here, you can see the planter boxes that were included in my final design. The seating, once again, there would be permeable pavement underneath the swings on the turf. And not much change, but I did add some few smaller elements. And I wanted to keep it true to my original design. And I really hope I succeeded in that. And yeah, that pretty much concludes everything.
Great. Thank you so much, Zaria.
Thank you, Zaria. I think that was absolutely amazing. I loved how you said give every space a purpose. We have no time for single-use spaces. I loved how you used multiple spaces and wanted to use all parts of the schoolyard. I thought that was great. Let's go to Mikkel, please.
Zaria, that was phenomenal. Thank you so much for all of the hard work. I think what I really appreciated about your design was that you thought holistically at the sort of micro level of the schoolyard, but also up to the macro level and the impact your project could have on the Gowanus Canal. That says a lot about how you're thinking spatially. And I also really appreciated that you thought holistically about the site and used a variety of techniques that were very strategic in terms of not only the types of green infrastructure, but how people would use the space. So the fact that it was dynamic, that people could sit, but they could also swing, that they could walk around. Again, I think it shows a lot of inspiration and a lot of sort of visionary application of different design techniques in a way that's really practical for the students who would be using this space. So great job.
Super. And Shino, can you give some comments?
Certainly. That was, I hope you can hear me. That was amazing. You have so many different uses, but manage all the differences, you're having trees nestled between the tables and seatings so that students can do their homework outside under the shade of the tree. And I love the swing sets. That little playfulness is really wonderful to see. And you created this really useful active recreation space. So congratulations on a really wonderful project, Zaria.
Thank you so much. It was really fun doing all of it. I also really liked the chance to show my work to all of these people. And yeah.
Fantastic. Michael, are you gonna, can you?
Sure. So our next up are William and Taran. And they'll be presenting their own Padlets also.
Here, William, I'm going to give you a link to my Tinkercad.
Okay. So
Here.
some of our inspirations for this were based on more objects that could help, like Taran's idea was stuff like rain barrels that can catch falling rainwater instead of just seeping straight into sewers. We can reuse that water for maybe like planting, maybe just repurposing in a new way. We also had the idea of bioswale that can also absorb water. And for me, I had an idea of like semi-permeable concrete and stuff like pavement that's more like pebbles, so water can just seep through. So our inspirations were more water-based, trying to find a better use of how we can reuse the falling water that just kind of seeps and just kind of floods places or goes into the sewers and back into the Gowanus Canal.
So in this design, it's kind of color-coded and also kind of not color-coded, but the red area is the parking lot for the high school, so we couldn't really edit that. But we really noticed that in the mornings, a lot of kids will just like line up against that wall right there. Well, it's a fence. We were thinking of converting it into an algae wall, but a lot of kids will just line up on it on their phones. So we were thinking of putting benches for them to sit under a roof. So if it was raining, they could still sit outside and they could sit down while they're on their phones, because some of their postures are hard for their phones. And so that's why we have a bunch of benches. We also decided to add some tree pits, but in this design, we just realized it like 20 minutes ago. The benches are against the street, which doesn't allow any room for cars. So we have to actually switch them over to the other side and get rid of the one in the middle. But wait, William, is the other one a better angle for the?
Yeah, I can try that. Yeah.
Okay, so the light blue part is a rain barrel, and the gray street is supposed to be semi-permeable concrete. It should allow water through into collection, which can be used for repurposing, or it can just be released into the sewers at a later date, preferably not during a rainstorm, to try to prevent CSOs. And so, yeah, this design's really about water conservation and repurposing. And using the limited space of the entrance, we managed to turn basically all the space we had available to edit into space that would store water. So, William, you want to talk about the numbers in the 2D design?
Yes. So we also have a 2D design based on, let me just pull it up fully. So it's more based on exact measurements of where things are going to be. Here, the planted benches and tree pits are against the fence. It's just smaller to better fit the actual sizing. So like the red is a slanted roof that would lead to like a gutter or tube that would carry it into several rain barrels for the repurposing of water, as well as, like Taran said, we would have permeable concrete. We would have a 10-foot sidewalk with, hold on.
Well, basically, the sidewalk is 15 feet, right? And so we said we would use no more than 5 feet of it, so people could walk past uninterrupted. We wanted pedestrians to have the best experience walking past our school. We didn't want to bother them or anything.
So with only 1/4-inch pavement gaps to allow the water to go through. And yeah, it's mostly just the design to, like Taran said, it's mostly a design, like Taran said, just to conserve water, as well as keeping with our limited amount of space. But we do have like a little description of what we were gonna do. Some of it might be a little outdated because we constantly keep editing it to better fit the qualifications of the project. But like we were saying, we can have planter benches, tree pits, permeable concrete, rain barrels, stuff like that, all just to help with the conservation of rainwater, or just any water that may happen to find its way down to the entrance of our school.
Fantastic. I thought it was great. I can't understand how well you've taken to Tinkercad, all of you. I think it's amazing. Really, really good stuff. And now let's go to Michaela, please.
Amazing job. I'm totally blown away by all of these presentations. And for this one specifically, I really loved how you were focused on water capture and reuse. I thought that was super creative and took into account the constraints of the space. And I also really loved how you observed people's behaviors. So students lining up outside of the school in the morning and really built around that. I thought that was super compelling. I am curious, given that you are a team, did you sort of have a shared vision to begin with, or were there sort of points where you were disagreeing about what you thought would be a good design for this space?
Well, we both had the idea of water capture. I was kind of focusing more on storage. Well, he was doing semi-permeable pavement, but I think we basically just, we both did bubble diagrams of the courtyard, and then we decided to switch to the front entrance because we thought it was a better location to use our ideas. So we basically had no plan when we were starting out as a group because we had to switch locations. So we took the water conservation idea and we built around it. And I think it turned out pretty well.
Fantastic. Wonderful. And Brandon, can you?
Sure. So, can you guys hear me? All right. So I really like the use of technology. Like, I'm really impressed with how you used Tinkercad and did the modeling, because I personally like 3D modeling in Rhino, and you guys doing this at your age is impressive. I like the idea of the permeable pavement. You consider pedestrian movement, and it's like you did a really good job thinking about everything. And it's like I'm kind of jealous. Like I didn't get this opportunity, and you guys have it, and you're just a really good job on this. Really impressive visuals, and you put dimensions, everything. It's really good. Full plan and full design.
Fantastic. So Michael, I think we have one more group left.
Yep. So Olivia and Caitlin, thank you for being patient. You're on.
I'll share my screen. So
what? Okay, thank you, Olivia. Yeah. So Caitlin and Olivia work together also as in a partnership.
Let's go to the bottom of the screen. Okay, so we did a Tinkercad, which I can open here, and we also did a Google drawing. Should we do the Google drawing first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that came before the Tinkercad.
We did the Google drawing first, so if like the Tinkercad was, I don't know, whatever. We did it first though, and Caitlin said she wanted to present it.
Oh, me. That's what you meant. So, we still have the basketball hoops so people could still do active play, and we have a designated area for backpacks because they're usually just all over the place. The garbage cans are by the door, and the water fountain, which you can also refill your water bottle at. We added more plant boxes, and I think we made them a little bit wider so people could sit on them too.
Yeah.
And there's a garden with a path leading to where you eat. Or just sit there at the tables.
Got it?
And it's turfed with some permeable pavement.
So we also did a Tinkercad.
Which was very difficult to work with, by the way, because Tinkercad's annoying.
We did Tinkercad. It's just like the Google drawing. Oh wait, it's the wrong way around. Okay. Oh no.
Oh,
It was hard.
stop.
Okay.
Stop.
So we did a Tinkercad, and we just made like basically a model of the Google drawing. So we have an area for. I'm gonna hide the wall just so we can see everything easier. No, that looks really weird. We have an area for backpacks here, so people can put their backpacks there. Okay, this is really difficult to scroll through. Ugh.
Okay, it's difficult. That's why it's difficult.
Oh, it's my screen sticky. We had some basketball hoops, and we thought that would be easier than a court because a court takes up a lot of space, and we weren't really sure if there would be space. And then we have a water fountain here and like a trash can, so the trash. And then we also, oh God. Oh, we also did a garden like with trees and
A
stuff.
bench.
We have a little bench because I thought that would be nice. And then oh no, okay. We have these planters here that they just have some flowers, but they could have vegetables or I don't know, students could grow stuff in them. And then we have the seating area here that also has trash cans, so like people when they eat can drop their trash.
Also,
there's ice cream on the tables, but that's just because it was the only food they had in the menu. We just have some tables and some chairs and trash cans. And then the other thing is we decided we would do mostly turf, but then where the basketball hoops are, we have it, I guess that's permeable pavement. So like it's sort of split. And I think that's it. Do you have anything else?
And one of the ideas behind having the tables in the courtyard and in that space, first of all, that space because it's cut off from where people would be active playing and you don't get hit with something while you're trying to eat. And we put the tables specifically there because I think it was like back in February, we had the climate walkout, but all 3 grades had to have lunch at the same time. And our cafeteria is split between the high school and our school, and it's just small. I think it was like the 7th graders got the cafeteria and 6th graders got the gym or vice versa. But the 8th graders, us, we were in the courtyard and we had to have lunch on the floor because there's no tables and like 2 benches. So we all had to eat lunch on the floor and it was not very pleasant.
Yeah, let me go back to the pamphlet. Here we go. So we had, our original plan is here. Should I read it? Do you want to read it?
I guess you read yours, I read mine?
Oh no, I meant like the one we did together.
Oh no, yeah, that one. That's better.
This is basically just what we ended up doing. We wanted to have a rain garden, which I guess we did with planters, and we wanted the planters to also sort of be benches, so we made the edges wider. We have a picture of that, like from Google, over here. Like this is not what we ended up going for. We sort of did something more like this, where you could sort of sit on the edge if you wanted to sit there. And we also wanted to have turf so people could sit or play soccer, or if there was like no lunch, maybe you could do classes there. We wanted to do
You could also do classes at the tables.
Yeah, at the tables too. We also wanted to do a green wall with something, I guess ivy, but I don't think we did that in either of our Tinkercad yet.
Nope, that didn't happen.
Let's see. Water fountain, and we did trash. We were gonna add a shady structure, but instead we just did it in like the alleyway where we had the table. So here,
which benefits the
it's
shade
pretty
for the
shady
anyway.
Anyway, so we didn't put a shady structure there in the end. We had some drawings that we sort of just used to. Like this was what we wanted our garden to look like. It doesn't look like that in the Tinkercad, but this was Caitlin's original bubble diagram. Soccer field. Do you want to present this?
Oh, yeah, the chill zone area is actually where we have the tables now, and there wasn't enough space for a small like baseball field or whatever. So we did do the basketball court, which was the basketball hoops, and we did the turf, which doubled as a soccer field.
Yeah.
Okay, it's terrible. Get off it. Go to yours. Thanks.
Okay, I didn't put mine because mine didn't look very much like the end thing at all. So.
And mine did?
No, but this is what we thought of for the shady thing, which we didn't end up putting. And then I think that's it. Originally, and we wanted to put a rain barrel, but we weren't really sure where that would go. So we didn't end up actually putting it in our design, but it would have been cool. And this is just screenshots, but that's cool. Okay, I think that's it. I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Caitlin and Olivia.
Fantastic. I thought that was great. Again, the Tinkercad skills and the design skills are phenomenal for remote learning. Even if this was a in-depth class in classroom, it's wild, the skills that all the students have picked up. Can we go to Michaela, please?
Yes, amazing job. I think everyone was blown away by sort of your attention to your user. So I loved the idea of like a spot for backpacks and a spot to fill up your water bottle. It was really clear that you thought about who was going to be using this. Even that idea of like protecting the seating area from basketball so people could sort of enjoy themselves was really awesome. I'm curious, I know you talked a little bit about some of the things that you thought of that didn't quite make it into your final design. Can you just talk a little bit more about how you made some of those decisions about, what you would take from your original ideas and sort of what you might leave behind?
Olivia?
Oh, sure. Okay. I think we sort of did the ideas before we partnered up, and then we just sort of decided what parts of each other's original ideas we wanted to include. And then some of them we just didn't end up doing. I don't think there was really a specific reason.
And some ideas we have from our experience, like the backpack area, the lunch area, the shade.
Fantastic. And can we go to Brad?
I'll just sort of second what everyone is saying in the chat about how blown away I am with just like what you guys learned in this period of time, both like the ability to use the technology, but also, anyway, these were just remarkable, all of them. I liked a lot in this last one, sort of both in your process, using different technologies, but also bringing your own experience and then kind of using it all together. Like it's multifunctional in a lot of ways, from the ways you could sit on the planters and where you could put the backpacks to just kind of how you brought everything together in your process. And I guess my question is a little about what that experience was like. It's clear you like wrestled with Tinkercad and had your frustrations with it, and you had like things in your own head from your own experience, and then you had those pictures that were like beautiful and cool, and then you had to wrestle them all into this design. I think you did a great job of that, but obviously just like putting together all those different technologies and different ways of imaging space and kind of what that experience felt like, what was frustrating and how you dealt with those frustrations and how you thought about kind of getting to your end product.
So, yeah, we had separate ideas. A few of the ideas we agreed on, and then a few we had to compromise, like to take out the softball field. Olivia, add on if you want.
Basically, what Caitlin said. Most of our ideas were pretty similar to begin with, and then some of them we compromised.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I think that wraps it up. I echo what Brad said. Just amazing work, students. We're all so impressed. And we are behind schedule, not through anyone's fault other than technology and trying to figure out how to make this whole Zoom event work. But what we're gonna do right now is split off the jury into a breakout room, and they're gonna discuss awards. And students and all other audience members will stay here. Feel free to audience to listen into this conversation about design as activism, how the two can work together. And then the jury's going to come back and announce the awards. So I think, Natasha, if you want to send the jury out of here, all jury members, you should get a notice that says you're going to your breakout room. So just accept that invite and we'll go. We'll leave the students to converse.
And I am just going to give everybody a moment to get sorted, and then we can start our discussion here. Okay, I think we can get started. We only have a few minutes, so I'd like to dive right in. But hello, everyone. My name is Jordan, and I'm the Education and Communications Coordinator here at the Gowanus Canal Conservancy. And now, while the jury is off deliberating, we're just going to take this time to discuss the importance of activism and how design and activism can sort of intersect with one another. So this discussion will mainly be geared towards the students here today, but I do encourage all participants to listen in. But of course, if anybody would like to take this time to grab a snack, take a break, this is a good time to do that. We'll probably be here for the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. And then once this sort of shifts over, we will venture on to the final portion of this event. So just to jump right in, we have two experts from the field who you've already heard from a little bit, Jessica and Brandon, and they are going to speak to you about their experiences and answer some questions if time allows. But to kick things off, we're just going to start with some basic introductions. So mainly who we are, what we do, and why we do it. So I will just start right now, and then I will pass the metaphorical mic over to Jessica and then to Brandon. So again, my name is Jordan, and I'm the Education and Communications Coordinator. I've been here for about 2 years, and I lead our in-person education programs, which of course they're virtual for this season, but generally I'm out in the field with students, and we're doing water quality testing, talking about green infrastructure, taking tours around the neighborhood, stuff like that. And I'm also working with teachers with workshops and professional development events. And then of course we have the communication side, so I help with social media, newsletters, video editing, events, things of that nature. So that's a little bit about who I am and what I do, but now I'm going to talk about the why. So I do this work because it's something that I'm really passionate about. I've always had this really strong connection to nature and the environment, especially from just starting off as a kid. And then of course, growing up, you start to learn about what it is that the planet is really facing, right? And of course, when you love something, you want to protect it. So that's really how I found myself in this position. But now I'm in this place where I can educate and inform and inspire people, and particularly youth, and help them to make a difference in this planet. So it's honestly the coolest job I can possibly imagine. I wouldn't want to do anything else. And just a quick note, I just want to say I'm very grateful to be here with all of you today. You guys are already doing the work. These projects and presentations have been amazing, and it just brings so much joy and meaning to my life, just to see all of you young people making this a better place. And of course, creating a future that's sustainable and enjoyable for everyone. So really thank you for that. I don't want to ramble too much. That's just me. So we're going to pass things over now. So Jessica, if you could just briefly introduce yourself, again, who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Jess. I am completing a master's in landscape architecture right now. I'm from New Rochelle, New York, so a little bit above the city. And yeah, I love public spaces, public green spaces. I got into the whole world of it from a class I took in high school, actually, with environmental studies. And I heard one of your schools had an ecology class, which is amazing already to be learning about that so early. So I always knew I wanted to pursue science just because it was most interesting to me. And then once I was looking at colleges, and you see this huge laundry list of majors, and environmental studies seemed like kind of the most important to me, or the most interesting and sort of relevant to my interests. I already liked going outside, learning about plants and animals all the time. And then it was sort of exploring different cities, just another thing related to like my interests, having fun, and exploring different cities around the world and country, and realizing that the green spaces there were my favorite things I always sought them out. It always seemed like the special thing about where you were living were its very particular parks. And I realized I could design them, which was something that hadn't occurred to me before. So I started Google searching, emailing people. I'm a huge advocate of the cold email. If there's any like field that you guys are interested in, just look up professionals, find people that are already working in that, and tell them that you're interested. And I figured out landscape architecture was probably the closest to what I wanted to do. And I ended up working at Gowanus Canal Conservancy, not to promo our host too hard, but an awesome organization actually right in my neighborhood. And I walked past Natasha doing a volunteer event one day and interacting with all these volunteers. And it was sort of already what I was thinking about. And then like literally in my backyard. That's why I do what I do. I love it.
Thank you, Jess. That's great. And thank you for being here. Brandon.
All right. So like Jess, I am my fellow, she is my classmate. We're both students at City College. We're second year MLA students, so landscape architecture. I chose landscape architecture because I learned about this major maybe back in my undergrad. I went to Stony Brook, and I entered Stony Brook as a civil engineer, but I failed physics my first semester, and that made me realize I may not do too well in the math and science-y. So I looked at other majors, and I found, there's environmental design, planning, and policy. And I took many classes where I got to do a site analysis. I got to do, we got to redesign a plaza on our campus. And I felt like, maybe this is what I want to do. And when I graduated, and it made me think about the city I live in. I grew up in New York City. I live in Queens right now. And I'm surrounded by whole New York City. I'm very interested in its history and the thing about spaces and how we could make spaces better. So I took a gap year after graduating, and I knew I wanted to be an urban designer, planner, but I felt like my skills were not enough. So that's why I began perusing some grad school, seeing so I can improve my design skills and digital skills like AutoCAD, Adobe, and Rhino. And then I was fortunate to find City College is right in New York City. I just commute there. It's easy to get to, and I have definitely learned a lot, and I'm really impressed with what you guys have done so far in middle school using Tinkercad and making 3D modeling. So I only learned 3D modeling through Rhino and AutoCAD about a year and a half ago. And what you guys are doing starting young is really impressive. I say you should keep going on, keep working on those skills. I'm really impressed, and it's a good foundation. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you both for sharing a little bit about yourselves. Now, obviously, since we don't have too much time, I do want to just jump in with some questions that I think will be great to hear the answers of. Some of these questions are going to be addressed to our experts and some to our students and some to both. So my first question is for both our experts, Brandon and Jess, and our students. So anyone who wants to answer, please do. This is a small enough group where I think we can kind of just shout out, have a bit of a dialogue here, but if it gets crazy, maybe we start raising our hands, I don't know. And if you feel a little bit too uncomfortable to share and you want to just let us know in the chat box, that's okay too. But I do want to encourage some vocal dialogue. Okay, first question. How can design be considered a form of activism used to make a positive impact, either on a small local scale or on a large national scale?
Well, I personally think that design can be used for activism. in many cases, for example, art. A lot of people use, for example, let's say graffiti or something. You can incorporate, let's say, pieces of art in your design, and they can have a special meaning. Another example of something like that is sculptures. So certain things have certain meanings. For example, there are many symbols in our media that have different values and all of that. And I feel like if you incorporate certain things into your design, they can either speak for something, and you can really express your ideas through these things, particularly in this art form. And yeah, that's just one example.
That's great, Zaria. Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in? Maybe one more person?
Open to teachers too, or just students?
Let's throw in the teachers too.
I mean, one of the things that we try and do with our unit is to really look at like who gets green space and who gets to live next to the sewage treatment plants, and why are those decisions made, right? So when we look at rates of asthma, for example, you know, it's no surprise that people who have less money are living around places that are toxic and breathing terrible air, and they're the ones getting asthma. And the people who have a lot of money, when they suggest putting toxic things in their neighborhood, they develop coalitions and keep it out. It does fall along racial lines, and it is a racial issue. It's just another way. Environmental justice is another way that we oppress people and punish people for being poor or being Black and brown. And it's really a social justice issue of race, in my opinion. And I think we need to say that and own it and fight for it as people who care about the environment and care about justice.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, Cheryl.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts on this before we move on to the next question?
Well, just going off of what Cheryl was saying, there's definitely a lot of advocacy in where we decide that these things go. And, you know, there's the whole field of environmental justice that are trying to like find ways to fix these issues, and not like some of the things it's unfortunately too late. This huge community is in an area like my last studio project for school this year was in L spaces, the spaces underneath highways and subways that often cut through long disserved neighborhoods and communities. And so now with like something like the BQE that we can't necessarily just remove all in one day, we can, as designers, at least try to think of best possible ways to make those spaces more livable, or even like destinations if we possibly can, making the best out of a sometimes bad situation when that's the case.
Exactly. Thank you. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to ask 2 more questions, and I'm going to keep it open to everybody. So the next question is, what have you done to create change in your community using design, or how do you hope to create change in your community using design, depending on the experience that you have?
I'd love to hear from some students, but I mean, I got super lucky and GCC was hiring when I strolled across them, but if I didn't work there, I would have still volunteered there super regularly. You know, I moved to a new neighborhood, and one of the first things I did was my little Google search, find out what organizations were in the neighborhood, and figured out how I could get involved and just like meet more people who are my neighbors and figure out kind of what their lives were about and what their issues were.
That's great. Yeah, community is everything. It all starts with getting to know one another.
Yeah.
Can I get maybe one student to chime in? How do you hope to create change in your community? Have you started to think about that at all?
Well, I have I have done a little bit of volunteer work, but in other areas of, but for other things, like I often do volunteer work with my mom, but I do hope to try to do more volunteer work related to design and like environmental issues, like let's say cleaning up garbage with the school, around schools, or cleaning up garbages in parks. I remember, I think it was last year or the year before, but I remember our expo class, we went around the school or another block and we were using the trash pickers to clean up the garbage on the sidewalk. And it was a very interesting experience, but it also made me feel really good inside because it's like we're helping the community. And I really want to try to do more of that in the future and see what I can do.
That's amazing. I'm happy to hear that, and thank you for sharing your experience. Okay, last question, open to everybody. It's a big one. What gives you hope that we can make a difference, and what drives you forward in this mission to make the world a better place? Maybe some voices we haven't heard yet.
I want to hear from the students because I was going to say them. They're doing design work that I just learned way more like later in life.
Right.
Yeah, you guys' work is so amazing.
Yeah, let's hear from some students. And again, if you're feeling a little uncomfortable, you can let me know in the chat box how you're feeling. Maybe the students can keep thinking. Brandon, do you have anything that you'd like to chime in with?
Yeah, can you repeat the question again, please?
Sure. What gives you hope that we can make a difference? What drives you forward in this mission to make the world a better place?
What drives me? Well, first off is seeing like young students doing this. You guys in middle school starting young, getting into technology, building up those skills where you could advance them through your high school and college years. As Jess said, I'm with her that I just learned these skills a year and a half ago. I learned them earlier. I don't know what I could have done. So participating in this challenge and hearing all this feedback, learning new skills gives you a good foundation. And I think it's really the students, the younger students, doing a change. I mean, I'm still learning, and in my program, we are dealing with environmental justice. We're dealing with social issues. We're trying to design spaces for people that integrate the community, and it just, I guess it starts with the young, yeah, such when you're a young age. So I'm really impressed with these projects.
Yeah,
yeah,
I feel the exact same way.
Yeah, I'm even impressed how much you guys know and how much you guys care. Like it wasn't cool to care about the environment when I was in middle school, and I'm not that old. Like that wasn't that long ago. So just like saying how much you care about, and like some of you guys surveyed your other students to get feedback about like their input, and just sort of this community mindset that you already have is so impressive.
Absolutely. You guys give me hope, that's for sure. So it looks like our group is coming back. Is this true? Seeing more people coming in.
We're all coming back. We're ready to
Great.
go.
Okay, good. Well, we finished our questions. So I guess we can transition back. Thank you guys. If you have additional questions, feel free to put them in the chat box and we can continue the conversation at another time. Thank you.
Okay, so I think our jury is all back from the breakout room. There was a very spirited discussion about the awards. So I think, let me screen share. Who is up first? 1 second. Okay, so first we have Brad, who's going to announce the award for Brooklyn Collaborative Study for Rosalind's design.
Rustin, we especially loved how much you did that survey, got such good information, you know, didn't only use your own experience, but reached out to your community and got a lot of other perspectives, and then really followed through to bring those perspectives into your design in just a clear way that we're really confident everyone would recognize. And that is like just the real ideal of doing participatory or community planning and design work. So we were just blown away by that. And so we are giving you the award of Best Community Process. Oh, Community Engagement. All right, excuse me. Best Community Engagement. Yay, and very well deserved. Thank you, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, and next we have Shino, who's going to present Sanaya's award.
We were so impressed by how you focused on the needs of people and their emotional well-being. And we felt that it was particularly timely now with what's happening with the pandemic and Black Lives Matter. So we were very impressed by the creativity and the humanity of your approach to this project. And we wanted to give you the award of the most poetic award. And thank you so much for thinking of how nature is important to people's mental health and how nature can actually heal our spirit, our minds. So it was a wonderful and beautiful and very poetic project you did, Sanaya. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so next we have MS447 and Zaria's award. And I'm sorry, I did not write down who is going to present Zaria's award.
That's me, Mikkel.
Mikkel, thank you.
Zaria, we talked about how, you know, in the intro before your presentation, it was mentioned that the schoolyard is often thought of a dreary place or thought of like a prison yard. And so when we saw your design and the fact that you incorporated the needs of students, but also so many different green infrastructure elements in a way that looked very holistic for this space. And we were so impressed by that. And so we are giving you the most transformative design award, and just want to say congratulations for really thinking about this space and using such an inspiring model to really make a difference in the space itself. So congrats.
And next we have Michaela, who's going to present Caitlin and Olivia's award.
Yes, so we really talked a lot about how you created a space that would bring people together and created a design that really invited different types of use and really built a sense of community. And so with that in mind, we are giving you the award for Most Thoughtful Placemaking. Congratulations, and thank you so much for sharing your work with us.
Awesome, thank you. And last, we have the award for Taryn and William, and that's going to be presented by Nick.
Yeah, so thank you. We, the jury had a great discussion on the project that you guys created, and I think what really jumped out to us was just how impressive and how thoughtful your process was in researching all of the different stormwater techniques and how to deploy those in a really small space in a really efficient way. And so for all of that, we decided to give you guys the award for as stormwater gurus. Because again, I think it was a really, really well thought out process, and you guys did a great job demonstrating how to use all of these great stormwater techniques in a really amazing way. So congratulations, really great project.
So congratulations, everyone. I think we're going to end. I think Brad is going to end with some words of encouragement and inspiration for us all.
Well, This was really extremely hopeful, I have to say. This has been this is a moment with a lot of different kinds of pain, like just the challenges of losing this semester of school and having to adapt to doing all your work online, and like what a frustrating and challenging educational experience it's been. All the suffering and pain that the COVID crisis has brought, like living in a city with people just kind of dying all around you and you're stuck in your homes. And then the pain of the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and what that reveals about our society and the pain that racism causes, and what our responsibility is to do. So like, that's just like a lot to sit with. So I just want to honor what everybody's been, that through all of that, which you all are experiencing in your different ways, quite a few of you, young people of color, everybody trying to get through this time, that you like had the focus to learn to do all of this and like keep focused is amazing, but also bring yourselves and your values to it is pretty tremendous. So for all those challenges, imagining you guys as future leaders who are, bringing a model that values the experiences of your fellow students and friends, recognizes that you can build these skills that make you leaders, that the spaces we occupy, that we can transform spaces that feel like prison yards into spaces that feel like playgrounds by listening to people and like showing up and doing that work together. It's pretty powerful. So I feel very hopeful. I'm grateful for you guys for doing that work. I'm grateful for you for sharing it with us, for being reflective about it. The city that you guys can build is one that looks like those drawings and the teamwork and the processes you have. And that's pretty fantastic. So I'm feeling very grateful for the work, and really, I don't know if my words are supposed to be what's inspiring, because it's your work that has inspired me today, and I'm just really, really grateful for it.
Thank you. So I think what we're trying to say is, students, we believe in you 100% to lead us into the future, to build a more resilient city, and we're behind you. We're not going to let you do that alone. So as you emerge in your leadership roles, we'll be right there with you, supporting you. So I want to do some thank yous. So I'm just going to, give me 1 second so I can share my screen. So we want to thank all of our teachers and our students for participating, their amazing work. A round of applause. Hard to applause on Zoom, but and for MS88, who couldn't be here at this final event this year, but their students are still working on projects later this June. So we're going to be excited to be able to share their work as well. So one really awesome thing about your work is that the New York Hall of Science and American Society for the Landscape Architecture New York chapter is going to be sharing your projects through social media to tens of thousands of followers across New York City and the world. So we want to put your ideas out there to a wider audience. We're really excited that so many people could hear today your proposals, and we want to make sure that it gets out there. So we want you to know that. And we want to thank our amazing volunteers who zoomed in to our students' classes to provide feedback on proposals and push students to think about the next level of design, and also appeared in some of our design videos. So thank you all, volunteers. It was so great for you to be able to jump in during this time and help out and be there for students as they went through the process. Our jury panel, thank you so much for participating, for listening to students' ideas, and for your support for our students. GCC project team, myself, Christine, Fred, Jordan, and Ruth. We're all sort of the behind the scenes folks working with students in schools. And again, our promotional partners, New York Hall of Science, American Society of Landscape Architects, New York City chapter, and our funders, thank you, Con Edison, National Grid, and New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. All of you partners make this possible. And that's it. And we want to wish everyone a good night, and please take care.